Roundtable Sports Network brings you NFL divisional debate coverage on a weekly basis from your favorite content creators across YouTube. Featuring the AFC East Roundtable live Monday and Wednesday evenings. The AFC South Roundtable live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST. The NFC South Roundtable live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST. The NFC West Roundtable live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. EST. The AFC West Roundtable live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. EST. The NFC North Roundtable live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST. The AFC North Roundtable live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST. The NFC East Roundtable live Thursdays at 6 p.m. EST. Roundtable Sports. Real coverage from real fans.
NFC South Roundtable. How are we feeling tonight? It is your usual suspects back at it with another live stream here on the NFC South Roundtable to break down everything that just happened in Week 6. Had some crazy matchups. Man, I'm really excited to get into this one. As always, I'm your host, Colby Cochran, here with Roundtable Sports. On your way in, guys, please make sure you hit that thumbs up. Help support us massively. And, of course, subscribe to the channel for all of your NFC South news. We go live every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we drop pre-recorded content later in the week that you guys are just not going to want to miss. Make sure you guys get into the discussion in the comment section below because that's what we're here for. Before we get into today's video, though, I want to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of this video and this channel, of course, all football season long over at BetUS. Right now with BetUS, if you guys sign up, use the mobile app, or go ahead to their website, you use the promo code like you see on the screen, YouTube150. That is YouTube150. You guys can get an exclusive limited time offer of a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, followed by 125% sign-up bonus on your next two deposits, all the way up to $2,000. That is a deal on your first 3 deposits. Who is going to give you that opportunity? No other damn sportsbook. That's who. BetUS has the fastest payouts in the industry, a 200% crypto deposit bonus, fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process, 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year, live wagering on all major games, best betting variety in the business. They can even give you a 10% back on your net losses 2 times a year, really taking care of you and your money. And they can even give you your very own personalized account manager. The things that you can bet on with BetUS are absolutely absurd. You can bet on NFL football, college football, basketball, baseball, horse racing, martial arts. You can even bet on entertainment and the debate. You can literally bet on who you think is going to be the next president. In fact, there's something that BetUS put out there the other week that I was absolutely dying about. You can even bet on how many years Diddy is going to serve in prison. I swear to you, it's not a joke. It's an actual fact. Guys, BetUS is absolutely changing the game, but please make sure that you guys play smart. You guys play responsible. Never bet more than you can afford to lose. If you or somebody you know or love is dealing with a gambling issue, please be smart. Please reach out and get the help you need. In fact, on BetUS's website, they have a page dedicated in getting the help that you need for gambling problems. So again, thank you to BetUS and shout out to them for sponsoring today's video and this channel. But let's go ahead and let's bring on the suspects. And TJ, buddy, let's start with you. It's week 6. We're recapping. We're heading into week 7. How you feeling about your Saints so far?
I mean, I don't feel the same way I did after those first 2 weeks, man. But look,
sorry, man.
Look, at the same time, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I'm really excited, like, honestly, because I know what's about to happen. You know, I mean, it's unfortunate that, you know, Saints fans have to endure this, but sometimes you got to step through ish, you know, to come clean on the other side, you know. So we got to get our Andy Dufresne on for those that ever seen Shawshank Redemption, you know. So we're crawling through the ish right now, man, but we'll come out clean on the other side. That's my optimism for this team.
Hey, man, our first look at Rat-a-tat-Tatler. Do you think that he's going to be the future of New Orleans, or is it just like, let's pump our brakes? This is more of a backup right now.
No, I think that he is the future. I mean, if you look at some of the rookie quarterbacks that had their starts first, you know, against the Bucs, Jaden Daniels, he as great as he looked, he only had maybe like 172 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Bo Nix played against him, even though the Broncos got the victory. And he looked the part. I mean, he looked poised, and he gave Saints fans something they haven't had in a long time, and that's some hope. So I think the sky's the limit for Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, man, a tough matchup too. I mean, coming in and playing against an in-division opponent, it's never easy, right? And I believe I saw a stat, and the stat was like, it's Rattler and Drake May that are the only two quarterbacks drafted this past year that in their opening game threw for multiple touchdowns. So, you know what? That's a good stat to be behind. So definitely keep it up. I mean, you got to see more from the quarterback. You got to let him develop. No quarterback usually looks good in their opening game anyway. But, Rattler comes out and he definitely shows promise. So let's go ahead, man. Let's bring on our boy, Smitty. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's up, man?
Just
another winning week, man. 3 in a row.
3 in a row, Smitty.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, man, what y'all gonna do, man? I just want to know if y'all gonna barbecue a meal, dude, because 4 straight. Dennis Allen got to go, man. I heard what the president said about he gonna stick behind Dennis Allen. I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, you're not gonna show his hand. He said the same thing last year when he was talking about his offensive staff. He said he had the right people in the building, and they did a complete overhaul. So I'm not buying what he's selling, but I mean, there's no telling with Mickey Loomis. But it's gonna be an issue if he keep this guy around.
Yeah, after Sunday, man, they phoned out.
Yeah, that's it, man.
They phoned out.
Yeah. Well, now look, unfortunately, not for Smitty because you came out with the dub, but somebody else in this division was on the losing side of that game with the Falcons winning. And that was our boy Clay. Clay, man, another day, another week. Some more disappointment down there in Carolina.
Oh man, it's brutal. It's brutal. It is what it is, man. I mean, David Tepper is just looking worse and worse as time goes by. There's a difference between a franchise and a franchisee, and the NFL might have to make a decision here and pull a Dan Snyder out from under him.
Already?
David Tepper it has to go. It's bad. It's that bad, Smitty.
Man, I remember when Carolina was a good team. Y'all were competing back in those Cam Newton days, and I just feel like now y'all are just like constantly just the bottom of the league. What happened?
It's been 8 years, man. You got an owner that meddles within football operations. You've gone through, 4 different head coaches. Actually more than that, 5, because if you count the interim head coaches plus the other 3, now Dave Canales. Technically that's 5. It's atrocious, man. And when you've got an owner that's meddling within football operations, telling your coaches what plays to run, what schemes to run, and you've got also a guy that chose Bryce Young because he felt that he could sell more tickets than getting the actual franchise guy in CJ Stroud. What do you expect? What do you expect at the end of the day? So, I mean, and then they go out this offseason and they rebuild this offense for a guy that has a noodle arm that you go and get a Xavier Legette who can take a top off the defense, but a guy that can't throw the ball up to take the top off the defense. So it just doesn't make sense. And I just want someone to make it make sense why in this game in Atlanta, why are our linebackers going one-on-one with Drake London? Can someone explain that to me as a defensive coordinator? Because I think also Ejiro Evero has to go. As a DC, Ejiro Evero is not as good as everybody thought he was, and he's not as good. And there's a lot of proven facts to do that. I know a guy out there right now, Robert Saleh, is a really good friend of Dave Canales back in their Seattle days. So I wouldn't be too opposed at the end of the year if they move on from Evero and go get Robert Saleh.
To put a positive spin on it, though, Clay, at least y'all didn't sell the team that did
it. Hey, man, look, I feel like ownership does play a much bigger part than people realize because, yes, your general manager, your head coach, like those are the guys coaching and they're building kind of the team ultimately. But at the end of the day, like who is the guy making those decisions? It's the person that you're asking to lead. It's your head coach. It's your general manager. And that comes with your ownership, knowing what they're doing and making the correct hirings and knowing when it's time to walk away. And there's a lot of owners in the league who just don't know how to do these things. Woody Johnson for the Jets. I mean, he's one, and it's the same reason on why right now the Jets have one of the best rosters in the NFL. But unfortunately, right now they're out of the playoffs.
Well, luckily enough for us now, it seems that Tepper has backed off a little bit, right? I mean, he's still in the shadows, but the reason why we are where we are now is because of the last 6 to 8 years of Tepper meddling with him.
Yeah, but let's go ahead. Let's bring on James. James, buddy, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing good. That was a lot, Clay. I don't know.
Hey, listen, I could go all day. I could make this an hour-long podcast just about David Tepper.
I'm doing good. The Bucks, is a good win for the Bucks, so I can't wait to dive.
A beat down.
Yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait to dive into it. And yeah, man, it's good to get back in the win column. So.
Yeah, man. And obviously last week we were talking about, the hurricane, asking everybody to be safe. That was kind of the big storyline of last week. I know that we had some people not even able to watch the show because they were already dealing with issues. So James, obviously, you're in Tampa, you're in the area. Why don't you just give people a kind of quick update on how you're doing and just let everybody know that you're okay?
Well, I am okay. So that's good. Obviously with the hurricane, if I think it'd be important just to look to see if you do want to give anything or see what you can do to support the people who have been affected by the hurricanes. I know the Red Cross has been doing some stuff lately around here, FEMA and all the different types of organizations. So I would encourage people to definitely do their research, or if you even do live in the local area, volunteering can always be helpful as well, just to clean up debris and refuse and stuff that's in the surrounding areas of the Tampa Bay area, especially down in Sarasota where the hurricane hit, dead on. The Bay Area was a little bit lucky, as the hurricane right before it was supposed to make landfall did curve down into Sarasota, which is unfortunate for the Sarasota area. But obviously, we're good here on my end. Obviously, thank you to all of you guys who have been checking in. I mean, everybody here in the roundtable meant a lot. It's nothing that Florida isn't used to, right? So the state of Florida will continue to rebound as it's done in hurricanes past. So, it's obviously some tough times here in the Bay Area, but it'll bounce back before we'll bounce back again.
Well, guys, with that being said, let's hop into these games, actually. But before we do that, I do want to get into a few of the super chats that we have so that we don't fall behind on those. Of course, when you guys do donate to the channel, you get immediate priority out of all the comment sections. It helps supports us tremendously. Your comment gets thrown up there on the screen, both good or bad, for everybody to react to. So Brute Saint comes in here with a $5 donation. Took the L, but he's still here supporting, still staying strong. That's the mentality you got to have as a fan. If you can't be here when it's bad, don't be here when it's good. That's what I say.
Super facts.
Trevor comes in here with a $10 donation. Thank you, Trevor. Massive donation. Appreciate you. He said, this Bucks team really looking scary. It's on to Baltimore. # go Bucks. And that's going to be the first game that we do get into. But, I will say straight off the bat, putting up 51 points, I mean, that's just something that doesn't happen. A freaking 50 burger, man. That's so rare. Whew, the Bucks look like they are picking up exactly where they left off last year in 2023, especially in the postseason. But let's get on here to Oblivion Empire, who comes in on here with a $2 donation, says, rise up, let's go. And obviously the Falcons and you, Smitty, you guys are coming off of a few wins here. You guys are getting kind of in that right mindset, in that right category to, of course, make that run in the postseason. If the season ended today, you guys, of course, would be in the postseason. Morgan comes in here with a $5 donation, says, was it weird for Saints fans to watch the Bucks destroy them and then not throw a full-on party in the locker room? Class. Respect, Morgan. Respect. But all right, guys, let's get into the first game here. This was really just a week of divisional games. So I want to start off here with the guys on the top. And TJ, let's start with you. Obviously, another week where, unfortunately, your Saints do fall. A big loss to an in-division rival. Obviously, you guys coming off of a few losses here. Now, like we mentioned in back-to-back weeks, it's going to be important for all of you, especially the Saints, though, to come down with these in-division wins, because if you're going to have hope down the line at competing for the division or even getting into the postseason, it starts with beating your in-division opponent. So, TJ, break this down for me.
Yeah, I mean, plain and simple, man. The New Orleans Saints, they quit. They quit on Dennis Allen. They quit on the fan base. and they took their ball and they went home. But to me, I know, some Saints fans probably got upset about it, but not me. I mean, I think that is inevitable at this point. When you got a passive aggressive head coach that can't motivate a fish to continue to stay in water, it's just a reality that you're going to be a failure. I mean, he got everybody in here that's criticizing New Orleans Saints with jokes, I mean, it's warranted because they are a joke and they have no one to blame but themselves. They were too afraid to embark on a new future that didn't involve some type of Sean Payton remnants. And they decided to, get Dennis Allen because Dennis Allen was on his staff and he was recommended by Sean Payton. I find it ironic that they might come full circle because from what I feel coming up this Thursday and based on what I've seen on Sunday, I feel like it's probably going to be that Brandon Staley type game. I don't know if people remember last year where the Chargers played against the Raiders and the Raiders had 42 points in the first half. It kind of reminds me of that type of vibe. I mean, those guys, look, you had starters out there on that field. Yeah, they got injuries and stuff, but they had starters on that field. And guys just don't forget how the tackles and the fundamentals. That was a team that just basically showed the front office and said, we're tired. We're tired. We don't believe in the message. And I don't blame them because I don't either. So, it's kind of like what Bill Belichick said. Like he said, on to Cincinnati, it's on to 2025 for me, man. I mean, I'm looking forward to the future. That's what I'm on. So when they fire him, then we can be back in here, and talking some NFC South football that's worth talking about. But right now, you got a coach that's killing the credibility of the New Orleans Saints.
On to 2025 already. That's the mindset. You don't think that they can turn it around? It's still early in the season, right? Like they can still make something happen if they turn it around right here, but you just have no hope in Dennis Allen doing that?
I have absolutely no hope in Dennis Allen whatsoever, man. This needed to happen. I didn't want it to happen, of course, at the beginning of the round table. I kind of believe that they can actually weather the storm. But looking at a team that I know, like I've seen the Saints lose football games, but they always relatively close and they always competitive in losses. That was a team that just straight up, flat out quit on the head coach. And I don't blame him, man. So, I mean, it is what it is at this point. As long as Dennis Allen is the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, there will be no sustainable success. They can go and win a couple games or go on a winning streak, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just a bunch of nonsense. And this team right now is nonsensical, and they're not even worth watching. And if honestly I didn't follow this team, I'll probably turn it off, because based on what Mickey Loomis said, like honestly, based on what Mickey Loomis is saying and what he's alluded to, he's okay with wilding in mediocrity. So why should any Saints fans subject themselves to this nonsense? So hopefully Sean Payton does God's work and come in and bring an ass whooping with him. And, we get this over with. So we don't have to keep on lingering throughout the season, hoping and keeping our lucky rabbit's foot and 4-leaf clovers close by, hoping that Dennis Allen becomes Bill Belichick overnight, because the ish ain't happening.
Well, sending love and prayers to TJ as he goes through this hard time. I mean, it's not good giving up on your team right before the start of week 7. So I know what that's like, though.
Now make it clear, Cole, before we move on. I believe in the players. I don't believe in this coach,
which is fair.
And like I said, you basically find yourself watching. It's like a relationship. It's over. You're just waiting for that one person just to walk out the door. That's just basically how it feels right now. Like it's emotionless right now, man, and it's crazy. It's spooky times because usually you have some level of emotion for your football team, even if they're losing. But when it seems like they doubling down on mediocrity and bad coaching.
Yeah, I know how you feel, bro. I felt like that about Arthur Smith last year, so I know.
Hey, TJ,
I've been feeling like that for 8 years.
Yeah, poor Clay, man. Yeah, we all can't talk when Clay's been going through this for as long as he has. But look, the way that I see it, and I say this all the time, and I've said it here on the NFC South Roundtable, is that good coaching can make a bad roster look good. They can excel it past its limitations. You can make the playoffs. You can go on a run. But bad coaching can make a good team, a good roster, look absolutely terrible. They can ruin the mentality. They can ruin the energy. I've been hearing Saints fans talk about firing Dennis Allen for years now, and they still haven't done it. And it just feels like you will win games from time to time, but you're never going to make the postseason. You're never going to go on the run, even with the talent that the Saints have, until you end up making that change. And it surprised me. It surprises me that the Saints aren't making this change really up to this point. I mean, they should have done it years ago and they still haven't. And that surprises me because fans and even owners, the patience level goes down and down and down every single year in the NFL. If you are not immediately competing, it's change the quarterback. It's fire the head coach. It's bring in the next guy so you can immediately start winning. Nobody has patience, but I feel like Dennis Allen, they've given him more than enough patience. And at some point, you got to bite the bullet and move on. Because really,
Yeah,
I mean, it can't get much worse for the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't look. If somebody is trying, like if the Saints were like in a rebuild and they were struggling right now, I would respect the hustle. Like at least you trying. But it's like it's so obvious that this guy is not head coaching material, and it's like they're trying to make him something that he is not. And that's the most frustrating thing about it. Like, just cut your losses, man. I mean, we all make mistakes. But it just seems like, they're so keen on trying to look the part that you don't. Like, everybody knows that the emperor has no clothes. Like, it's just that simple, man. It's over.
Yeah, well, let's get back here into this in-division game. And James, let's get your thoughts. Like we mentioned, you guys obviously coming out victory, another win in that column for the Buccaneers, 51-27 here. How did you guys prevail this much?
Well, I had fun watching the game. Look, firstly, I want to say this. Besides that second quarter, it was really just total Bucks throughout most of the game, right? The Saints didn't score any other points besides that second quarter. You could argue that without the Bucks having so many self-inflicted wounds in that second quarter, that it wouldn't even have been 51-27. Now, that isn't to say that the Saints were absolutely horrible in this game throughout the entire game. I thought that Spencer Rattler did some pretty interesting things. I think that he's very mobile. He has a tight spiral. He looked impressive in that first half. In the second half, things kind of fell apart a little bit offensively for the Saints as well. What was so, I think, surprising in this game, and I remember I heard TJ talk about it a good bit on his channel, is how uncharacteristically bad this Saints defense was. I have a lot of respect for this Saints defense. I thought going into this game that it was one of the better defenses in the league, but that was not the case in this matchup. It simply wasn't. I mean, you did have a couple of interceptions from Baker Mayfield, 3 to be exact. One went off of the hands of wide receiver Jalen McMillan. One went off of a defensive lineman's helmet right into Cameron Jordan's arms. I would say 1 out of those 3 interceptions was Baker Mayfield's fault, but the Bucs really imposed their will on offense. I mean, Baker Mayfield had over 300 passing yards and 4 passing touchdowns. Sean Tucker, the Bucs' third-string running back, had almost 200 scrimmage yards in this game and 2 total touchdowns. Bucky Irving, the Bucs' other running back, had over 100 scrimmage yards in this game and a touchdown. The Bucs rushed for 277 yards in this game, and they passed for again over 300. Like, they had almost 600 yards of total offense, and for a Dennis Allen led defense to give up that much yardage and this much in terms of points was very surprising to me. Very surprising. Now, obviously, since I am a Bucs fan, it was surprising in a pleasant way. But I do tend to agree with TJ where it's like, man, this Saints team just feels lost right now. They've lost 4 in a row. The offense has taken a big step back. You do have some interesting players there with Spencer Rattler, and you are dealing with injuries, especially on the offensive line. They had to roll Rattler out so much in this game because when they didn't, he was getting sacked left, right, and center, right? So the Saints do have some interesting pieces, but I've said it here throughout the entire, NFC South Roundtable, livelihood, is that I don't think the Saints are going to be able to truly grow as a team until they get rid of the duo of Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. It just seems like this is something where they may need an offensive-minded coach going forward, and just a solid defensive coordinator pair up with him, just because Dennis Allen, just in a strong leader of men, I feel like is so important for the Saints at this point. Because like TJ was saying, Dennis Allen just seems to really be struggling to get these guys motivated. Absolute basics had fallen apart in this matchup. The Saints could not tackle worth anybody's business. in this game. And the Bucs were able to take advantage of that to, again, the tune of 51 total points. Antoine Winfield Jr. came back. He got a fumble return for a touchdown. Kalijah Cansey came back. He helped out the pass rush in a big way as well. Again, you clean up those self-inflicted wounds in that second quarter, and this would have been an even more dominating game. And we had talked about this last week, where coming out of that game against the Falcons, this was a game that both the Bucs and the Saints needed to win. And it just felt like such a different demeanor between the both teams. The Bucs went out there and knew they needed to win this game. The Saints, kind of like what TJ was saying, just felt like, besides a few players, they had just given up, all things considered, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It was a tough game for the Saints, but for the Bucs, it was a great bounce back game. Of course, Atlanta did win their game. So in terms of the NFC South race, they are still a good bit ahead, even with the same record as the Bucs. But still, this was a much needed divisional win here for the Bucs after last week's really tough stinging loss against the Falcons.
Now let's go on down here to you, Clay. What did you think about this game?
Yeah, let's start with the Saints first. And I'm not talking shit when I say this. Dennis Allen just sucks, period. Like, let's not sugarcoat this, guys. Like, Dennis Allen is historically bad. If you go look at this guy's win rate, it's like 34.2% or something crazy like that. So this guy has cemented his legacy as one of the worst head coaches ever. Like, I think me and TJ had talk about this when we were breaking down our matchup a couple weeks ago, but this guy needs to go. Like yesterday, why is he still here? You know, because to me, you're just dragging this team down fast. Spencer Rattler was fine for his first NFL game. As a Gamecock fan, I thought he was fine. I think he had a decent debut. But he's not gonna be the savior right now, because there's more that needs to be done than just Spencer Rattler, right? The Saints defense couldn't tackle a pillow. They're absolutely right now. They absolutely look pathetic in that part, but Carolina couldn't tackle a wet paper bag either. So, you know, we're right there with them. So it's been bad for weeks. It's kind of gone through this like downward spiral for the Saints right now. And you know, I think if the Saints are smart, they just starting the youth as of right now. Let the youth take over. You've got Rattler, you got Bub Means, showed some promise, right? But you got these old vets like Cameron Jordan, 35, Demario Davis, 35, Tyrann Mathieu, 32. They're constantly getting banged up. So it's time for I think the youth movement, because the injuries are killing this team right now, and they're not getting any younger. And that's the only way you're going to stop the bleeding. On the Bucs side, I mean, Baker Mayfield's got the most touchdowns in the NFL right now as a quarterback. Let's be real. He is the best quarterback in the NFC South right now, even though he threw 3 picks, 2 of which weren't really his fault when I was watching the game. But the offense still looks explosive. Rachaad White's been a ghost lately, it seems like, but Sean Tucker, Bucky Irvin on the offensive side have stepped up for the Bucs. I think the defense still needs some work there. They're giving up some chunk of yards, and they've got the Ravens, the Chiefs, the 49ers coming up, so they're going to have to fix this defense up and tighten it up fast. But overall, I thought the Bucs did what they needed to do.
Smitty, buddy, let's go on over to you. Break down what your thoughts were from a massive in-division game.
Well, I'm going to tell you like I told y'all from week 1. No shots to TJ, but he was bragging about how they won, but I just said, wait till Dennis Allen show up, wait till Derek Carr show up. And it's happening. And as I told y'all last week, I could see Spencer Rattler taking over and Derek Carr not even playing another down. I could see them trade him at the deadline if they can get off that contract. But the Saints, they just quit the second half. And you could see it. The Bucs ran for 250 yards, 5 yards a carry. That's crazy. So Clay talked about the injury. That's true. But when you look at them as a whole, as a team, they've been needing to blow this team up for a while, especially after Sean Payton left. And they let the wrong person into the coaching office. you should have had Ryan Nielsen as the coach there. You picked the wrong defensive guy. Ryan Nielsen is a little bit headstrong, a little bit tough as a coach. So I think he would have fit just a little bit better. But going forward, this team in New Orleans, yeah, I'm with Clay. They have to blow it up, start a youth movement. Because one thing about it is going to come sooner or later, so why not now? You have good pieces, and Alvin Kamara is another guy. The last 3 weeks, he's nothing like Alvin Kamara. He's looked like a shell of himself. And that's because they're not calling the correct plays to move the ball down the field. They're not balanced on offense. So, again, yeah, everything is out of whack. But the Bucs, on the other hand, they're starting to look like the Bucs of 2023. Baker Mayfield had an awesome game, and he used his weapons. Even though Mike Evans didn't really make, an impact in this game, they found other ways to move the ball down the field. But their running game is something to look forward to going forward, and we play them right after the Seahawks. So this is going to be a little bit scary going into Week 8. But, yeah, the Saints, it's time to rebuild, and for the Bucs, they just did what they needed to do. They won the game, and that was it.
Just at this point, man, for the damn Saints, I feel like y'all would be better with a damn interim head coach at this point. And I know interim head coaches don't exactly have the best record. I'm not saying that your interim head coach is going to be your future, but at this point, with Dennis Allen being as historically bad as he is, you would think that at least an interim head coach would switch up the narrative, would switch up the mentality, because at some point, you're going to lose the locker room. At some point, players aren't going to want to play for the New Orleans Saints.
That locker room already lost, Kobe. I mean, I don't know if some of y'all seen. I don't know if some of y'all seen a game. I'm pretty sure a lot of you did. I mean, those guys quit. And I'm telling you, man, like the Saints played Thursday against the Denver Broncos. I would not be surprised if that game gets out of hand early, man. I'm telling you, like those Alvin Kamara body language to me spoke volumes. Like he scored a touchdown. Like he ran into that ball into the goal line for a touchdown. It was like 2 yards out, and it was like he just walked to the sideline. I mean, there was no energy at all. Like it's gone, man.
Do you think that the Saints at the trade deadline could potentially trade some of their like bigger pieces?
I would.
Yeah. I mean, you might as well build on that. You might as well just build that draft capital, because that's the way I'm looking at it in Carolina right now. I'm like, you might as well just bridge with Dalton and just make trades and actually start the true rebuild, because no teams do that. No teams actually trade away all their pieces. They don't tank for the season. And you don't see that, but it's starting to get to the point, I think, in the NFL that teams are gonna have to start doing that, because look. They say it's not a rebuild, it's a retool. No, you need to actually rebuild, because you're just going to continue to lose, and you're not going to develop players.
They've been lying to themselves for 3 years. They've been lying to themselves for 3 years, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think the
and
Saints,
you also have to have an owner that doesn't meddle within football operations as well.
Facts.
Like Jerry Jones.
Yeah, that's a perfect example too, right there. It's a perfect example.
Boy, what a birthday present that was.
God, dope.
Another big NFC game. But I think at this point, the Saints are so far gone. The mentality is screwed up. The locker room is screwed up. And when that part is screwed up of football, it is hard to get the results on the field, no matter how good that the talent is. So I think if the Saints want to get back on track, if the Saints want to go into free agency and they want to be able to make trades for players that actually want to play in New Orleans, then at some point they're going to have to show that playing in New Orleans will have a payoff at some point, and not, hey, you're going to come here and you're not going to go anywhere. So let's get into this next game, though. And Clay, I want to start with you. Another big in-division game. You guys fall short here, obviously, 20-38. Why don't you break this down for me?
Yeah, I mean, let's start off with the offense. I mean, Andy Dalton can't carry this offense forever. I mean, he shows some sharpness at times, but it doesn't matter when you throw two costly interceptions. One that killed a huge momentum drive that could have tied the game up, and then that why are we throwing the ball to Ian Thomas, who is a blocking tight end? That's what he's known to be, a blocking tight end. It's got bricks for hands, and AJ Terrell's on him, and you throw it right to him when you had Jonathan Mingo for a 5-yard check down on 2nd and 8. So Dalton can manage the game, but there's just times he goes out there and makes these boneheaded mistakes, and I don't understand that. right? And people are like, well, why don't you bring Bryce Young back? Well, if you want to continue to watch a kid throw 90 yards per game, be my guest, because that's what you're going to get out of him right now. He's still the same old Bryce that got benched after the first 2 weeks. I don't care what anybody says. There's no development there. Bryce Young is no longer going to be a Carolina Panther after year 3. Okay, he'll be gone. All right, but let's talk about this run defense. We got gashed, 200 yards. Bijan Roberts and Tyler Algier made Carolina's defense look like a bunch of traffic cones. Okay, let's be honest. All right, until this team learns how to stop a nosebleed on the ground, they're going to keep getting embarrassed week in and week out. But the problem is with that is you got a Jiro Evero who's not willing to make no adjustments. He's running a complex 3-4 scheme that does not fit this personnel. And that's why I think that's another big issue that's alarming to me is not even trying to make the adjustments. There's just no fight out of this DC. And I don't know if it's just that he's just stubborn in his ways, because right now there's no adjustments, there's no solutions, there's no nothing. So right now this defense looks confused every single week. Ever is doing nothing to fix it. Third downs are guaranteed for any team here, whether it's 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 15. So, I think Evero has got to go, because if you're not willing to make the right adjustments for this personnel, because there's a difference between great DCs and good DCs. The great DCs are able to make the adjustments with the personnel that they have. And I just think that Evero is just a good DC when he has the right personnel. That's it. Chuba Hubbard, though, is the lone bright spot on this team. Chuba Hubbard, he's on pace right now to go over 1,300 yards right now and 16 touchdowns. He's averaging over 5 yards per carry. But the offense needs to start feeding him more. He's not getting enough of push that he deserves. So, I mean, once again, this team just continues to find new ways to lose, and it's hilarious at this point. It's an absolute joke.
Praying for you, buddy. Praying for you. I get so sad every time I hear Clay talk. I was like, man, this guy don't deserve it. This guy don't deserve it.
Hey, he keep it real, though. He keep it real. He keep it real.
You keep it real, man. You could come in and you could spit some reasons like, the refs suck and they're the reason that we keep losing. But nah, Clay keeps it real. So show some love to our boy. But Smitty, let's go on over to you. You guys prevail yet again. This is another dub in the win column for the Falcons. Like we said earlier, season ended today and the postseason started. The Falcons would be in. Break it down for me.
Yeah, but the season don't start today. We got a long way to go. And we all know things can happen along the way. But offensive wise, I think this team is starting to click, and that could be dangerous for anybody in the NFL. You talk about Kirk Cousins coming off a 500-yard game. He didn't have to put in much work this game. He still threw for 225 yards and a touchdown. But the run game, as I told y'all from the jump, is going to be key for this team going forward. It's been their bread and butter the last 3-4 years. So why not just keep using it and help Kirk Cousins set up what he does best? And you saw that the last 2 weeks. The run game has helped him set up the play. Well, not last week, but this game. Set up the play action. He made the key throws when he needed to. So offensive-wise, man, this team is clicking, and that, like I said, that's going to be scary. And funny thing is, it's like this team is just doing a deja vu or flip-flop, should I say. First couple of games, it was the defense keeping them in the game. So now it's the offense keeping the Falcons going. So now the defense has to figure out how to get to the quarterback. 5 sacks in 6 games is not going to cut it. They have to make a move at the trade deadline, and we'll get a little bit more into that in the preview show. But the way Chuba Hubbard ran on this team, man, it had me angry for a little while. And I think that even though we got those 2 safeties back there, AJ had an interception. This team they have to lock down on defense, man. They have to find a way to get out to the quarterback. And I don't care if you got to blitz a defensive back. I don't care if you got to bring D'Angelo Malone off the bench. They got to get to the quarterback. So again, this game was a sign. We're going against a Seattle team that's probably going to run a little bit more than they are. So this game was a key win, 3rd straight, and I think they keep the momentum going against Seattle at home, but it's not going to be as easy as people think. So shout out to those two running backs were going over 200 yards, averaging 5 yards a carry, and they scored 3 times. So that's the key to the game, man. And that's all I have to say about that.
So, Smitty, is Algier at this point your running back one over Bijan Robinson? Because I feel like that's the guy that's producing for you the most. And Bijan Robinson, obviously, you took in the first round not too long ago. So many expectations around him. I freaking put him in my fantasy league, and he just clearly is not the starting running back for this team. What's going on with that whole situation?
That's a great question. I actually put that on my channel, man. Y'all can go check that out. I think they have to just play it by ear. And what I mean by that, whichever running back matches up against the team that you're going against that week, I think that's how you have to pursue it. You still have to get both running backs their carries, but whichever running back matches up, like we play the Seahawks next week. I actually think Tyler Algier matches up well against them because they're a big, strong up front, and they have those strong linebackers in the middle. So I think he could wear those guys down, but where Bijan is the mismatch is where he is in the pass game. Yep. So that's the tough part. If you make Tyler the number one guy, you lose one guy in the pass game, and that kind of slows down your offense a little bit because the offense runs through Bijan. So it's a catch-22.
Yeah, I think, and I want to kind of allude to that. I think if the Falcons are smart, I think they run first, second down with Algier, and you use Bijan as a third down back because that combo right there, we saw it against Carolina. It was working. And I think that if you want to keep that pressure off of Kirk, that's what you do. That's what you do right there. Yeah, it's your bread and butter. Absolutely. And another thing that Atlanta did, which I thought was pretty interesting with their offense, was they were moving Drake London in the tight end spot, and they were putting Pitts on the outside. They were moving them around. That's why I couldn't figure out for the life of me is why the hell our linebackers were on one-on-one with Drake London, and they were moving Drake London in the tight end spot. And I'm like, why are we not making any of these adjustments? And it was too little too late, but still at the same time.
Yeah, it definitely seems like in Atlanta, they're running a little bit more of a running back by committee type of system rather than running a bell cow. But at the end of the day, with where you drafted Bijan Robinson, it seems like you drafted him to be that bell cow. You drafted him to be one of the faces of your franchise. And it's just like right now,
but
that's
honestly
not happening.
But honestly, is there any more workhorse backs in the league? You have to have a 2-back system these days. A one running back just doesn't work. Look at Alvin Kamara when he had Mark Ingram in New Orleans, and TJ know what I'm talking about. You got to have 2 running backs in today's game if you want to succeed. Like I said, one is a mismatch in the passing game, and the other one, he's just a bulldozer in the backfield. So, pick your poison. It's a good problem to have, actually.
Yeah, hey, that's what Seattle does, Colby. Like, that's what Seattle does with Kenneth Walker and
Charbonnet. Yep.
I mean, that's to an extent, that's what the Patriots do, but some teams do. So, like Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots, he's still considered their bell cow, but they still do running back by committee. You know, like Ramondre Stevenson will get 20 carries, and then Antonio Gibson will get 9, or he'll get 10, right? So you have a guy who's still the bell cow, where I see running back by committee is more so split down by the middle. Like, hey, we're going to give you 15, and we're going to give you 15. Even in Seattle, like Charbonnet is a guy who filled in, I feel like, for who's the starting running back in Seattle?
Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, he subbed in for Kenneth Walker when Kenneth Walker went down, and they obviously still use Charbonnet, like Smitty said, more specifically in those passing situations. But in your rushing attack, who is your main guy? Who is that bell cow? That is more so Walker. But you know what? At the end of the day, if Bijan Robinson for some reason just doesn't work out in the NFL, at least he has an acting career to go off of, right? I found out the other day that he's in Outer Banks, and I watched it, and I absolutely couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, this is what this guy's been doing this offseason. Oh, man, that one got to me a little bit. But, DJ, what were your thoughts on this game?
Man, I thought it was more competitive than I thought it was going to be. I mean, Carolina, they did show a little bit of heart. You know, they did try to, throw a swing or two. But, the Atlanta Falcons, I mean, they looking good. I mean, they're getting the momentum. And then this is exactly what you wanted to see, like Smitty alluded to. Defensively, they were getting the stops and making the plays that were necessary to keep them in the game. Now you're starting to see a little bit of a connection and a chemistry with Drake London and Kirk Cousins. And also Kyle Pitts is starting to wake up a little bit with Kirk Cousins. So, look, it just shows you what a credible quarterback, a veteran quarterback can do for a football team, And you also have confidence on your side now. Now these guys can actually believe if they do their job they can find the success that they seek. So I think that they're doing all the right things. Gonna get a little bit tough for them. I still want to see what the Atlanta Falcons can do in a tough situation against some competition where, some playoff teams, some teams that can act, that they're probably going to see in January if they end up winning the division and getting a first round bye or, a wild card spot. So those are the type of teams that you're going to face. So going up against, the Chargers not the Chargers, but the Broncos should be interesting because of Sean Payton, and also the Minnesota Vikings. Like that game right there, I mean, return of Kirk Cousins to Minnesota should be interesting. But I just want to see what they can do against those teams that they're going to see if they can make it in January. That's my only question about them. Can they be able to knock off those type of teams?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. But the two teams that we lost to, I think, playoff teams, and we played those teams very tough. And we were probably 1 or 2 plays for beating both of those teams. So I think we can hang. So I get what you're saying, but yeah, we can hang with those teams, man, no problem. And like I said, tough matchup coming against Seattle. Yeah, but I think they go ahead.
No, sorry, I got you, man. I don't want you to think that I don't see like that, like going up against Kansas City. That was a close game. Going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, that was a close game. But I'm talking about like being able to finish against some of those tougher teams, man. I mean,
right,
because once you like really in the thick of things and going up against that type of competition, I mean, the mistakes aren't going to happen very often. And I just want to see like how would they be able to do going toe to toe, exactly, bringing that A game. But that's my only question about them. I think they looked apart. I think that they should be respected, and But like I said, that's my only question. If they can answer that question, then won't get any more questions from me in regards to Atlanta.
And James, why don't you go ahead and finish us up here with all the games here from week 6, because obviously both in-division games kind of wrapped us up here a little bit quicker. Give us your thoughts on this Panthers and Falcons game.
I mean, I never thought I'd hear Clay say in the year of our Lord 2024 that Andy Dalton is carrying an offense. That's wild. Look, man, the game went how everybody thought it was going to go, I think, to a certain degree. I will say the Panthers have looked more competitive in these matchups, which is a good thing. I still think Chuba Hubbard is still one of the top running backs in this league, right now. He's playing like one of the top running backs in this league right now. I think Deontay Johnson has been doing some good things. But Carolina just obviously feels like a team that's a bit far and away from being competitive right now. In the case of the Falcons, look, they've got to be feeling great. Not only do you get 3 straight wins, but you get 3 straight divisional wins. Mm-hmm. We talked about this last week about how, in part, big this game was for me and TJ's respective point of views with Bucs versus Saints, because the Falcons have been on such a divisional roll. To win the division, you've got to win your division games, right? It's as simple as that. And right now, the Falcons are 3-0 in the division. So they're definitely riding high right now, as they should. They've beaten the Saints, Bucs, and Panthers all in a row. They do have a tough game against Seattle, but one thing that's been so interesting about the Falcons this year is they're a very sticky team. They're not getting blown out in any of these games, be it winning or losing. It reminds me a lot of the I believe it was the Vikings. It was either last year or a couple of years ago, where it's like every one of their games was like a 1-score game essentially, but they won most of those games. I mean, that's what good teams do. Good teams find ways to win football games. And right now, the Falcons are finding ways to win some football games. So you got to give them credit for that, right? You've got to give them credit for that. They've got a lot of momentum on their side right now. If they go out and they beat Seattle, they're just going to keep on cruising, man. Going into that matchup against the Bucs, which is a very important matchup there for the Bucs at home. I'm sure we'll talk about that. Obviously, yes, we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. But right now, the Falcons continue to showcase some good ability, much like what Smitty was saying earlier. Like, they're winning in different ways, right? Against the Bucs, it was the absolute dominating passing attack. Against the Panthers, it was the absolute dominating rushing attack. In games past, it was the defense. So, like, they're finding multiple ways to win, and that is the hallmark of a good team. So right now, yeah, the Falcons are definitely proving a lot of good things right now for their fan base, and just for the NFC South as a whole, that they are here to compete. So that makes the upcoming games here against the Saints, against the Bucs, that much more important for that race to the division title.
All right, guys. Well, look, that is going to recap all of these games here for the NFC South in week 6. Before we end off today's video, though, do want to get into the rest of these super chats. So let's see. I suck with names. I feel like if I tried this, I would butcher it.
Nervous.
Nervous?
Yes.
Nervous. All right. Nervous. Thank you for your $10 donation. Very, very generous. And see, now I know your name. So if
That's
you
my
donate
boy
again,
right there.
I will remember how to say it. Is this yours, Clay?
Yeah.
You want to read this one for us?
Yeah, I don't understand how Baker is good with the Buccaneers, but was so bad with the Panthers. TT him and Sammy D are balling out. Is it just surrounding talent or coaching?
I want to comment on this. So the past 2 seasons, you've had Dave Canales as Baker's OC, and he, people credited him so much with that he obviously became the head coach of the Carolina Panthers.
Mhm.
And then you brought in Liam Cohen, and Liam Cohen had a bit of a history with Baker Mayfield. I think that Liam Cohen, I'm very worried because I think Todd Bowles is too good at hiring offensive coordinators at this point. Because Liam Cohen's really been in his bag this year, and he's been cooking a lot. He looks like somebody who could be a future head coach in this league, at least so far. And I think that organizational stability is so important. Like, we've heard Baker Mayfield say it a lot. Even last year, he said this organization was so appealing to me because of the stability, because of everything from top to bottom, ownership, coaching staff, players, everything. Right. And when he was with the Panthers, Baker Mayfield, that is, they just didn't have that at that point. And they still, in a way, don't have it. I think they're getting there. I think that their general manager that they have right now, whose name is eluding me right now, Dan Morgan and Dave Canales, are a good duo, and I think they are leaders of men. But the ownership, Clay has talked about it week in and week out, and it's not really ever successful whenever you have owners meddle in football operations.
Yep.
Right? It does not work. You need to let the professionals do their job. That's one thing that Jason Light, that Todd Bowles have credited the Bucs ownership, the Glazier family, very well for doing. They take a step back. They let the guys do their jobs. And right now, the Panthers just simply don't have that right now. You're seeing an organization that is firing head coaches after 1 year, right? And going through multiple head coaches like it's nobody's business. So until large organizational structure changes with the Carolina Panthers, and I'm talking all the way to the top in terms of ownership, you can easily run into those same types of problems. And that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. So to answer that question, in my opinion, that's why I feel like Baker was not as successful in Carolina. And even Sam Darnold, again, with the Minnesota Vikings, a organization that has a lot of structure. And it helps that you have a lot of good pieces around the quarterback as well, of course, with Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and all that being around. But I also think organizational stability is a huge reason as to why those quarterbacks have been successful elsewhere.
Yeah,
that's true. And you got to think too. I just think Baker just talented anyway. You saw what he did as a rookie in Cleveland. The talent was there. You just have to put, like you said, structure around him. Sometimes it's just coaching. You see what he did in his short time with the Rams. Again, you're right. It's just structure, but he is talented. So as long as he got talent around him, he'll be fine. Go ahead, Clay,
look,
my bad.
It was just one more quick point, Clay. Before Baker was a number 1 overall pick, and Sam Darnold was a number 3 overall pick in the 2018 draft for a reason. Like the natural talent was there. They just entered in organizations that were not able to build around them when they were there. Even going as far back as with the Browns and the Jets and whatnot for Baker and Sam Darnold. But Clay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say with Baker's time. Well, let's start with Sam because Sam was here first. Before we went and got Baker. Sam, the problem was that they just didn't give Sam enough time. Like they had the talent around him. You had the talent around him, but the problem is that you never the biggest issue with Carolina, and it's not even with the Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold. It's really alluding to the fact that in the past, since 2018, the drafts, we only have 11 of those players on this roster still, which proves to my point that the scouting team in the front office has not been very good. Obviously the owner meddling within, but also the GM. We're not able to sign guys either. Nobody wants to come here either because of that. We just don't develop in-house talent. And that's the biggest issue. You go out and grab these draft picks, but then they're not able to, if you wanted to bring a Sam Darnold in, or if you wanted to bring a Baker Mayfield in, you can't surround him with talent if your coaching staff can't develop them either. So it's a big issue for them since 2018. And since David Tepper got here, if you can't develop the in-house talent, you're never going to be able to be good in the NFL.
And that's one of the main reasons. I'm gonna say this. This is one of the main reasons why the Monday morning quarterback sometimes, like, they got to understand the influence that they have on the masses. Because when you hear these type of stories about, Baker Mayfield leaving for dead, Sam Darnold leaving for dead, based on what they did in dysfunctional situations, it messes with those guys' confidence. Luckily for these two guys, they had enough confidence in themselves to be able to rise above it. But there are so many different casualties of war that are out there promising quarterbacks in the right situation that people kind of just left for dead if they gave them the opportunity. And maybe people start looking at, man, that's a dysfunctional organization right there. When the last time they actually built a quarterback? When the last time they built a running back or a receiver? If the mind frame of the fan or people that actually, cover the game sometimes will actually have this mind frame, I think that you'll probably see guys be able to, I guess, like, overcome their situation and become a good quarterback. I think that is a lost art in this social media world. Back in the day, man, those young guys used to sit on the bench for a year or two. And then, then they'll go out there. But now everybody wants to see them right away. And if they're not Patrick Mahomes in 2018 off the bat, then the next thing you know, like, he's no good. But I'm glad to see guys like Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold be able to rise above those narratives and play some good football, man, because now I think that will be, I think it will make owners understand that, man, maybe this guy didn't work out in this situation. We got some structure here. Let's bring him in, and maybe he can be the quarterback of the future that we need.
Agreed.
All right, guys. Well, look, that is going to wrap us up here for our Week 6 recap. We got to hop on over like we always do to go ahead and preview Week 7 for you guys. That'll drop for you in just a few short days. Before we end today's video off, though, do again want to give a massive shout out to the sponsor of this video over at BetUS. When you guys sign up right now and you use the promo code YouTube150, by the way, signing up, it takes less than 60 seconds. It's super, super quick with BetUS. I've done it myself. But when you sign up, you use the promo code like you see on the screen, YouTube150, and you'll be locked into an exclusive offer of a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, followed by 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits, all the way up to $2,000. Remember to play smart. Remember to play responsible. But remember that supporting the sponsors that support the channel supports everybody you see on the screen and, of course, everybody at Roundtable Sports. Please make sure on your way out, you guys do leave a big, 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 big like on this video. Our goal for today is to try and reach 300 likes. That should be an easy goal for you. You guys have also been killing it with subscribing to the channel. Let's not stop there. Let's try to get to 3,000 subscribers ASAP. You guys are killing it. You're easily becoming one of the top successful roundtables right now for Roundtable Sports. So make sure you guys go ahead and keep it up. Hit that subscribe button. But without further ado, we appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Stay safe.